And the upper right, he's playing for Starlight Twinkle. It's Cham.
And down the bottom left-hand side, we have the red Protoss player. He is Maplez, playing for Team Gosu. Sorry about that. I thought you were transitioning the game. I just left you hanging there. My bad.
It's fine. You know what? Look, if awkward pauses are funny, and I'm told, Ravi, that Twitch in general really appreciates when the person on screen, the streamer, the caster, whatever it is just invisible pain. So this was content.
I mean, that is actually very true. That is what I know. I enjoy watching streams where the streamer is in pain.
Shout out to Uppetry, who, by the way, did agree with me. I saw him in chat. He was saying, yeah, you know, I've never seen a good Zerg all in. So whether that was sarcastic or not, I don't know. And I'm going to choose to believe he was actually agreeing with me.
You know what? Sal likes disagreeing with me, so I believe that he was agreeing with you.
You know what? There's a lot going for me here and not a lot going against me. So I will, you know what, Fear Dragon, I'll take that. I'm not going to think too I'm not going to think too deeply about any sort of ulterior motives that may be happening or may not exist. Fine. I'll take the cheap win.
So to talk about these two players and stuff, I will say now, Maplez, I've seen him play. I've definitely seen him like play in various events and stuff. I have not gotten a chance to see as much of his like TVZ in the last 6 or so months, because I think in the past he's always kind of been like a decent player that I would see playing in open bracket events, sometimes showing up for the qualifiers for like an ESL or, you know, a WCS back in the day and things like that, but not necessarily making the super deep runs. And he was a decent player. But I think what I'm more curious about is what has kind of changed for Maplez that sort of made him ascend. How is his PVZ looking? Because Cham, I think, can be a very tricky player to face off against, in the sense that he isn't tricky. He has gotten to this stage by sort of brute forcing his way through with just honestly really good ability to like macro up a lot of roaches. He makes some smart decisions in the game with the units that he decides to make, but it's not necessarily, he's not a player that's like, well, I did this hard preparation of you trying to go for this Overlord scout timing, or you try to send your Adept in at this exact time, and then I have these units. That's not the style of StarCraft that Cham plays. Cham is really good at going for his sort of build up a lot of units, hit my opponent hard with them, use them effectively tactically kind of plays. And that's how he gets wins. And I call it brute force, and I don't mean that as an insult. I think it is a very, very effective way of winning StarCraft, because it's scary when your opponent isn't doing tricks to win. They're just winning because they're throwing units at you at the right times and using them well. That is really hard to play against sometimes.
Yeah, just really bludgeoning the opponent. And the way it's funny, the way you describe Cham, and I think this is pretty fair. He's the Mexican Dark. He'll play with a lot of roaches. He'll hit you upside the head with a lot of stuff. There's not a lot of subtlety to it, but it will work. You ask about Maplez though, because we haven't seen a lot of him. He plays kind of cheesy. He is a North American Protoss player with all that means. He's a Canadian Protoss player with all that means. And he hit some really cool timings against Eggs yesterday. I talked about that Night Phoenix build against Lambo. It was 2 Robo, 2 Colossus, 4 Disruptor, whatever it was. Maplez hit with something very similar to that, except it was off single Robo. And that's how he won game 3. That's how he shoved through. It was really, really cool. Not happening this game, though. It's funny because I think of Maplez, he's an aggressive Protoss player. He's going to try to make something happen. But for right now, it's a 330 third base, triple Oracle, getting a couple of depths to be on the map. But again, that's just defensively you're playing. And, well...
Oh, this is so Cham right now. Like, look at Cham's Overlord vision. He has like that one Overlord over at the natural, just acting as the kind of peeper cliff. He has no interest in actually scouting inside the main base right now. He's not like a sacrificing Overlord or anything. He just builds the spores and says, yeah, I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna also make a bunch of lings and try and cancel your third base, or try and kill off a bunch of these adepts. And Maplez is well positioned with those adepts. He's not gonna end up losing that base. He also didn't underinvest into the adepts. He didn't just sit there with 2 and kind of end up losing them, loses the third base. So I would say Cham is doing a nice job of trying to account for everything and like trying to find the ways to kind of bully his way forward into a lead. But Maplez is holding strong in this so far, and 5 kills is definitely not shabby.
Yeah, 5 kills. He built a lot of lings and got a single adept that's truly not worth it. So again, not only does he take a lot of drone losses, he builds a lot of lings that are worth a lot of drones. So now these adepts, these oracles trying to run straight up the gullet here. There's no transfuse for these queens, by the way. They can get sniped, especially with the adepts here on top of things. But for right now, it's poking. You shade back. You don't want to go on creep. Not a lot. The lings can surround, and it's a very easy way to lose the game. But behind this, Maplez, he's adding in a ton of gateways now. Blink on the way, +1 on the way. And I gotta say here, I'm a little shocked to see Maplez playing so standard. The one exception to what he's doing, you talk about standard play. There's no robo, which has worked its way into the meta quite a bit now. But he's also got a pylon on the right side. And it looks like he's gonna turn this into kind of a +1 blink all in. Not playing for 4 bases and this very heavy macro Protoss, but instead hit that sharp timing, blink +1. And unfortunately for Cham, he's got a Spire on the way. Any money he saves into this is the perfect counter build for Maplez in this game.
+1 air weapons on the way here for Maplez. So
no, he did this he did this yesterday. This is a fake. He did this yesterday. It's all about selling as much wrong as possible. He's not going for it. He's gonna cancel it at the end of the day. I might have let it go yesterday and get carriers afterwards, I forget, but this is a fake for right now. It's all about the stalkers, all about these adepts. He's gonna get a bunch of queens. One oracle's dead, adept shade into the natural. They're gonna go down, certainly. This 4th base, I don't know if he's got enough. Well, no, he's got a pile on the bottom side. He's gonna warp in a bunch more stalkers. And again, if you're saving money from mutas here, is a great stasis goes down. If you're saving money from mutas, that's not lings, that's not roaches, that's not queens. Cham, he's in a bit of trouble.
yeah, I really thought that Maplez was missing opportunity to kill that 4th base, but the stasis really making it look a lot better. He does want to get out of there before the stasis expires, as that is still going to be a lot of links. He doesn't want to just be immediately surrounded by that. Has another stasis available. That pylon is a little bit of a bold one, and wow, it's actually going to survive, but the probe does go down. 4th base getting killed is really, really nice. Another 4th base gets started on the right-hand side of the map. Maplez, I mean, he's going to continue this aggression. He starts up charge behind this, starts up a forge. Is he just satisfied with this damage? I think it's an interesting question. Is this, I mean, it's very, very big damage, but can he actually continue this, or is he overstaying his welcome?
I think you got to be really careful, right? Because there's a Spire done, and if you back up, that's going to be a lot of mutas. I don't even know if he knows about it, but that is something you got to be careful about. His 4th base is going to get surrounded by these lings. It's an awkward fight in the middle of the map as well. So 4th base gets killed, maybe? No, just canceled. Lings are actually going to go down, or Zealots are going to go down, even with +1, because there are so many lings right there. And what I think is fascinating here, I don't know if it's a mistake, this may be by design, but he's letting +1 complete. Now, this was a fake. I thought it was, and it was yesterday, but he's letting it complete right now. And the crazy thing, Ravi, as we talk about this game, having +1 done, if you got to transition into Phoenixes against all these mutas that are going to pop out, is actually pretty good for the Protoss player.
Yeah, no, that is actually going to be extremely helpful. Those Phoenix will shred through Mutalisk with +1 air weapons in the event that he actually has any Phoenix out on the map right now. But it is going to be 12 mutas already out on the map. And if they manage to make their way over to the natural or the main base or the 3rd of Maplez without Maplez actually scouting it out, that is going to be extremely problematic. Where are the mutas? The mutas went along the left-hand side, and they are going unscouted right now. Oh, this is going to be brutal for Maplez. What defenses does he actually have? He has a natural shield battery that's at the wall. That's it.
He can warp in 3 stalkers and make the mutas move to another base and kill that, but he is just in the natural. He's in the 4th base as well. Like, he's taking damage, absolutely. Stalkers have to warp in. That's a bit of a Narcosis final, but he's not going to go for it. If he clicks this base, the base is dead. Stalkers are going to kill the Roach Warren too. Maplez, he doesn't care about the mutas. He says, this is fine. I'm going to go and I'm going to kill off so much of your tech, of your economy, of your production that, yeah, I'm going to lose some probes. And I wish he just clicked the base down. He's not going to. This was almost so good for Maplez, and it's not horrible. I know it's still pretty bad, but that could have almost been really good.
No, I'm with you in the sense that it looked like if he was going to be able to kill the base, if he was able to continue killing workers or something, maybe there was something that he was able to make happen there. But at the end of the day, he barely really kills any workers. He trades out a lot of those zealots for damage on the hatcheries, but doesn't actually end up killing the main hatchery. He slows down the production of roaches, but Beowulf, I think, 19 roaches is actually many as he really needs for the moment. He's just flooding out lings and banelings to complement these lings, and we do have the final snipe over there on the hatchery, but it may not matter because Cham is going for the kill right now.
I mean,
trying to.
Balers are on top of the Archons, so that's not going all that well. These are 2-1 Stalkers on top of the Roaches. And Maplez, he gets the 4th base. Really doesn't take a lot of damage. He's, well, okay, the mutas are getting a lot of damage. 14 probes go down. So he wins the fight. And are we at this point, Revy, where the army is just incontestable for Cham? Like, the mutas are being annoying, absolutely, and they're continuing to shred this economy. But it's still 43 workers, and these Stalkers with the Archons here are really
Cham's in
hard.
trouble. Cham is in trouble, but he still has the ability to clean this up with reinforcing rallies. He needs to have a good fight, though. Pops the Archon at long last. He is going to be able to use these lings with +1 melee to push that army back. And I actually think it's okay. Like, it's not great, but it's okay that he lost the 4th base. It is salvageable because these mutas are still getting so much damage done. He has been able to shut down so much of the mining left and right that it ends up still being better for Cham, but it's not great. And I almost wonder right now, Beowulf, if Cham actually just had the minerals because his mining was like not so contested to just flood out 20 mutas with the 2,000 gas he had, would he have just won the game?
You know, probably. I think that is probably at this point. But he's not going for it. He's building 13 Ravagers. And remember, you talk about mutas, what do you go for? A Ravager costs the same as a muta. That is actually a really key number to think about. So every Ravager he gets is a muta that's not in the sky. And these stasis traps have the potential to just cause so many problems. Also, remember, this Protoss player, 48 workers, sure, is on 4 bases. The economy's not all that bad. The stasis traps, oh, they don't get anything done here. And the mutas, they're thinking about flying on over. They can deal with the oracles as well as they can. But again, the Baileys are not getting the best connections. That stasis trap on the backside is beautiful. Overcharge will get targeted down. And now finally, this 4th base is going to get broken down. Zealots can't really engage. And this is the economic damage, finally, because there are no probes. Yeah, there are some probes mining at the 4th base, but they're just going to die. Even still, Cham's going to lose his 4th base. This Zerg player is starting to rapidly run out of money. And again, +2 Blink Stalkers, +1 Armor Blink Stalkers. They're pretty good. By the way, also, Ravi, this muta count, not what it once was. It's still strong, but it's only 8. And I'm
genuinely concerned for Cham right now.
I think Maplez has this, which is
This is getting very, very dicey. Maplez, the only thing that's like really not going well for him is the fact that he is now down to 29 workers. But what's weird is that he's 29 workers with 4 Nexus, so he can actually replenish worker count. If he continues defending and Cham keeps throwing units at him like this, then Cham is actually going to struggle because he's just going to be oversaturated on most of his bases right now. He's not oversaturated just yet. I'll actually say he's not oversaturated with his 46 workers, but that is not a significant worker lead anymore. This is really not the position that Cham was in a couple of minutes ago.
I mean, look, Rev, 9 out of 8 on the 3rd base is oversaturated to me. Saying.
Okay, that is technically oversaturated, but he could move 1 worker or 2 workers over to one of his other bases and unset. Yeah, but either way, dude, it is starting to become a problematic situation. Oh, Muta's finding one of the oracles. If he finds the other oracle, that's actually going to be a really nice snag, but shield battery keeps that alive. Muta investment is not going to be doubled down onto because the economy for Cham is just so rough right now.
It's kind of weird how this game is just okay. Banelings, they turn around. Not a lot of anything to kill this 3rd base either. But it's kind of weird. Oh well, never mind. That's pretty rough. 42 workers here remain, and the 4th base is really where the majority of the mining is. But it's wild as we look at this game as another muta should get tagged down here. The game's kind of stabilized. Yeah, the mutas are going to get on top of the 4th base once again. But a lot of these mutas should die here with the target fire that doesn't exist. It's wild. And at this point, I could see anyone winning. There's a 5th base getting started, but it's going to be hard to hold on to with the Zealots on the north side and just the fact that Maplez, I think, knows about it. So, yeah, where do we go?
I'm kind of with you in some ways. I think what I'm worried about is that Maplez has been kept back for so long. I actually think it's given Cham the ability to also re-grab his 4th base, to for some reason also to take another new base, I guess his 5th base and stuff. If he's able to defend this base over here, I actually think that I still like Cham's position. I just don't know if he actually has had enough time. This is a lot of Stalkers. The Archon's also packing quite a wallop with +2 weapons. Roaches and Ravagers are starting to overpower through the Archons, and now it's just Blink Stalkers. A lot of them already used their Blink, and Cham with the overwhelming numbers, he did end up buying enough time over there. He is going to be able to push this back and may even be able to get in on top of this proxy bond. A little bit of an awkward wraparound from the left-hand side with some of those reinforcements, but yeah, Cham does end up having enough. He finally puts the axe in Maplez' back and claws out the victory there.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm looking at this like, you know, this is probably the best fight Maplez is ever going to get. Half the army was chasing the Zealots on the left side, so you're kind of fighting half the army with more than half of your army. It's +2, +1, like 2-1, +2 attack, +1 armor. You have it's only +2 melee, so the Roaches don't really benefit. Like, this was the best possible fight that Maplez was probably going to find for the rest of the game. Unfortunately, Zerg army on creep fast, and they bought just enough time. The fight wasn't bad enough for Cham, and game one does go the way of Cham. But dude, like, NA has been
Stressful.
delivering today. This was
It's been a lot of fun. I think a lot of very competitive back and forth, kind of like interesting and close series. I think that last game was a little bit wonky just because I think Cham had a very significant lead in that last game and just kind of struggled to close it out there with some of the decisions he was making. And honestly, also, I have to give full credit to Maplez on the Zealot run-bys and the timing of that alongside with Cham trying to go for the counter. Really, really nicely timed. He was able to get very close to getting a significant amount of damage done with the Zealot run-by, which he then actually turned into a kill on the hatchery later on. So nice job from Maplez, and also just nice job on the defense there with like the stasis traps and the defense against the banelings. You were pointing this out, Banewolf. Maplez did a great job defending against all of the banelings, like throughout a majority of that game. There was like one baneling run by and killed 10 workers. And I think all of the rest of the baneling run bys were not very effective.
Yeah.
So
there was one time when like there were banelings with the army on the 4th base. It's like, okay, that actually got a lot of damage done. And I thought that was actually gonna be the end of the game. But no, because this is America's, and Blink Stalkers are really good, and Maplez was able to make it happen. And now we get Oceanborn. Map number 2. Maplez, he played a standard game and went toe-to-toe with it. Cham, there were worlds where Maplez wins that game. So, does he do it again, or do we see something weird? Because he certainly, Ravi, we know, he's got weird things up the gullet, or on the docket. He's got weird things in his back pocket. That's the phrase. Anyways, in the upper left, in the red, down a game, but man, making that far closer than it felt like it had any right to be. It's Maplez.
And down in the bottom right-hand side of the map, currently sitting up 1-0 and 1 game away from moving to the playoffs, it is our Blue Zerg player, Cham. Representing team Starlight Twinkle.
Best team name.
Remember, this is our final do or die game of the group stages, the final game of the group stages, or I should say series of the group stages, because it could be the final game, but we don't know that yet. Depends on if Cham wins.
Can't believe Ravi here. The bias. It's the final game. You don't believe in Maplez. My goodness, Spear Dragon.
I think that Maplez showed some cool stuff in that last game, but there are still some concerns I have about kind of like the early, or like the mid game, I should say. I think actually early game, he did a really nice job. He was able to get a lot of kills with the Oracle. He was able to find nice damage with the Adepts and everything. But when it came to that kind of big mid game push and like dealing with, for example, the mutas and stuff, Maplez really did start to fall apart pretty quickly. So I think that was hopefully just like game one jitters a little bit. Also just getting used to facing off against Cham, who isn't always the biggest muta player. So I'm interested to see what Maplez is going to be putting down in game number 2.
Yeah, you know what's also really weird? +1 air was finished, and not a single muta was, or not a single Phoenix was made against the mutas. Like, I understand that you're kind of worried about what's happening, and at a certain, once the mutas showed up, economy is shattered. You're really affording a bunch of Phoenix is hard. But he committed for +1, which I think was a bait that he just kind of forgot to cancel. But get four +1 Phoenix, and that muta threat is not nearly as strong as it otherwise was.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, it was at the point where a lot of the game there was only 7 mutas out.
Yeah.
I think 3 Phoenixes, like 3 Phoenixes is all you even need to really even deal with that. But I'm with you. I think that would have been nice if you already have the Stargate, I'm a big fan of just investing in like 2 or 3 Phoenix, because you think you can still find value with them. You can still pick off some Overlords, at least that are around the map. You can lift up a couple of drones to just get scouting information as well. But a little bit unfortunate there. Maples is not gonna have that opportunity as game 1 is now over. The moment is past, Beowulf. We're moving into game number 2, and he's got to make his own new decisions for a new game. And I mean, I would actually be surprised if Cham played exactly the same way as last game.
By the way, you know what I love? I'm seeing people in chat every single time a Protoss player wins a game or loses a game. Just being people spam. The only conclusion that I can draw from this is that Protoss needs a nerf. Yeah, that's how the internet goes. But yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see where Maples is going to go into this game number 2. He looked promising. We saw some pretty cool ideas. Obviously, some things that would love to see get cleaned up. But I got to say, I'm a little surprised to see, yeah, he's not. No, he's sitting on the pylon a little bit longer. I'm a little surprised to see him just play standard. Maples had some really cool builds against Eggs that, you know, kind of took his opponent off guard, won some games. And maybe it's just like Oceanborn, Alcyone are maps that are a little bit too standard to get away with anything super crazy. I don't know. But again, seeing Maples go Oracle into Blink, I mean, yeah, faking the +1 is a little bit weird, but in general, just going for this very standard play, not what I think of when I think of Maples.
I feel like when I've seen Maples in the past, this is why I was kind of saying, like, I'm interested to see what Maples is doing right now, because I'm less familiar with what his current meta of play is. But I know in the past, I feel like I've seen some decent variety from Maples. So maybe he's been doing a little bit more on the all-inning side or something, especially maybe during qualifiers or something like that. But it's cool to see that he still has got that kind of macro in his back pocket. He has a little bit of that variety of PV, whatever sort of play style behind him. And this game, we got 3 Oracles coming on up, but then we're going straight into that Twilight Council, adding on the Forge, getting into a nice little comfortable zone, and already finding some good damage with those Oracles, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, you're not expecting to get a ton of damage until you get 2 or 3 Oracles together and then go from there. And I do like this. We've started to see this happen more and more across Korea and Asia and Europe and now in the Americas, where you get a couple more Adepts, then you might, oh, he can cancel the 4th base. He's not going to see it. Okay, well, that's a bit unfortunate. But you get these Adepts with the Oracles, and generally how Zerg players have been trying to defend, it's, oh, he's going to get a Queen very nicely there. It knocks one down. But because Zerg players tend to go, and these are, it's the second gen Queen. Because Zerg players try to be pretty greedy on their defense, you can often get something done, force a lot of Lings out, snipe 2 Queens has happened here, and it's going to get out. Okay, most of the Adepts are dead. One still remains, and look at what Cham does immediately. He's like, you just used a lot of energy on your Oracles. You just lost a bunch of your Adepts. I can cancel this 3rd base.
That was a lot of really unfortunate micro there from Maples. I think maybe feeling it a little bit after that last game and kind of how hectic and crazy it got for a lot of it. I mean, just the fact shaded the Adepts back. 2 of the Adepts didn't actually get fully pulled back, as Maples, I think, was maybe microing somewhere else. And so they run back into the Lings, they get picked off, which means that the rest of the Adepts are a little bit more vulnerable. The Oracle's right-clicking on the hatchery rather than actually killing off any of the drones or any of the Lings or even the Queens. That's another unfortunate one. I won't say I'm like full-on worried here for Maples, but I'm starting to get a little bit worried here for Maples.
Yeah, I mean, behind this, Cham's double expanding as well. Granted, I think that's effectively one of those bases is a macro hatch. He doesn't tend to really saturate it for a while. Just, yeah, if you're going to get a macro hatch, you're going to play Ling heavy, might as well put it on the map. It gives you creep and means you have an easier expand later on. But Maples, he doesn't have this timing before everything's ready. Is I guess the thing right now. Roaches are on the way, Lings are on the way. But Blink is about 30 seconds out. +1's about 30 seconds out, give or take. And as Cham is already on the map here with a ton of stuff. Again, this 4th and 5th hatch is not there to mine. It's there for larva. That's it. This attack coming in from Cham is pretty scary, but again, you last a little bit longer. Blink's done in 10 seconds. +1's done pretty far after that. Problem is, there's no shield battery. There's one in the middle line. There's not a lot of stack defense right now. Stalkers have to run away. Their Blink is done, so they do have that shield battery overcharge. Has to get popped here as well. And they can go up on the high ground. Warpins are doing a pretty good job. Oracles on the back line getting on top of these Ravagers, and it doesn't look impossible, but it is hard, Rubby.
Cham actually not going after the shield battery overcharge for quite a bit of time, so That ends up buying Maplez a lot of time to try and get some extra micro out with these Blink Stalkers that were losing some of the shields, but it seems like he's starting to get a little bit overrun. And yeah, Gateway's getting V-Power on the low ground as well. 4th base finishing up. The last thing in the world that Maplez wanted to have a hunt or 400 extra resources invested into. Good game, good.